creatives, I'm your host, Aylin Wild, and this is my podcast, Empathy Machine. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in. This is my first podcast ever. I'm really excited to see where this takes me, and I look forward to making discoveries along the way and just being a blessing to those of you that tune in to listen. I just wanted to start this podcast with a little introduction to who I am, what my background is, and what you can expect, what value I want to bring into your life. So I just thought I'd start by explaining the name of the podcast. So the podcast is called Empathy Machine, which is a reference to one of my favorite parts about film and video. One of my favorite podcast shows is Kermode and Mayo's Film Review, which I would highly recommend if you love film like I do. But one of the things he always says is that film is an empathy tool. It's a tool to see from someone else's perspective, to understand someone else's point of view. And that's kind of what I really love about film and just any kind of video. I feel like it's such a great way to see things that you normally wouldn't see, things you wouldn't normally think about. And there's so many films I've seen and just, videos I've seen that force me to think differently about a topic or about a person or a type of person. I can't even count the number of films I've seen where I have seen someone in that film that is like somebody I know, and just hearing it from their point of view, from their perspective, is so powerful to me. And I love that about film. I love that you can watch something and you come away knowing something or seeing something that you didn't know or see before. I just think it's such a powerful aspect of film, and that's why I named the podcast Empathy Machine, because this podcast is basically going to be me rambling on about videos, about film, about just things I've learned over the years, and taking you on my journey with me, because I'm definitely still learning. I'm not an expert at all. I just really wanted to create a platform where I could speak about my experiences and the things that I've learned along the way, and kind of share that with the world and, whoever is willing to listen. So some basic background about me. I am a Christian. I'm a videographer, a film lover. I go to the cinema every week, which sounds like a lot, but I love films so much. And I love the whole cinema experience. I love not having any distractions for the whole film. I think in this day and age where, there's so many distractions, my phone is constantly going off. I'm constantly pausing whatever it is I'm watching to respond to someone on Messenger or, to go get something to eat. And I just feel like the experience of seeing a film in a cinema is so different for me to watching it at home. I always get so much more out of it. And I also really love the whole experience of seeing it with other people collectively as a group. It changes the way I see films when I see other people reacting, when I see other people laughing or, hear people crying or whatever. Whether I love the film or not, I love seeing people reacting to it and getting something from it. So yeah, that's why I go to the cinema every week. But just going back right to the beginning of my, videography journey, I would say it probably started when I was about 8 or 9 when I got my first digital camera. I remember I got it either for my birthday or Christmas for my parents. Both my sister and I got a digital camera and we were so excited. And I just remember every single family holiday, we would take photos, take videos, and we would vlog, which wasn't a thing. That wasn't a thing back then, but we were doing it, just turning the camera on ourselves and talking about, now we're in the south of France and this is our hotel, and now we're stuck in traffic. Isn't that annoying? So I loved that whole experience of being able to share what I was experiencing with other people when I got home, and just to remember it later as well. So I'd say that was probably my first kind of vlogging or, videography experience. I'd say about 5 years ago, I made a documentary about my grandma. I can't really remember how that all started or where I got the idea, but basically I wrote down a list of questions to ask her and kind of the basic structure of how it was going to work. I had this old camera from my grandfather. He gave me his old camera and I filmed it over 2 days. I literally went there and I didn't have a tripod or anything. It was just a basic old camera, and I set it up up on a stack of books and I just started asking her questions. And then I just, filmed her house. She's got this obsession with owls, which I love. So I just filmed all of her owls, stuffed owls, porcelain owls, all the owls in her house. And then I filmed kind of outside her house. I filmed her walking on the beach with her dog. It came to about 20 minutes. And I just remember being so nervous to show her and so nervous to show my family. And I showed it to her individually. I sat down with her and I showed it to her before I showed anybody else. And I was really nervous, but I was watching it and she just kind of leant over and held my hand, and she just was so moved and so touched by it that, I had taken the time and kind of wanted to share her story and, been interested enough about her history and like where she's come from and how she became who she is and her values and everything and, things that she's learned in her life. And that moment was just so special to me that, we were able to share that together, that, she was so touched by that. So that really kind of helped me to see how film and how video could affect people and, bring people closer together. So from that, I started my own YouTube channel, which had nothing to do with that at all. It was a makeup channel. You can still find it on YouTube. I won't tell you what it's called. It's not my name, but it was just me in my room making YouTube videos, and I absolutely threw myself into that. I would spend hours and hours editing, filming. I got the background to look nice, and I bought these softbox lights, and my dad gave me a microphone for my birthday, and I just absolutely threw myself into it. It didn't really go anywhere. I would say I was doing it for the best part of about a year, but it never really kind of went anywhere. I got a few subscribers, but it never really went where I wanted it to go, which I was quite upset about. I was kind of just working in a sales job just at a clothing store because I really love fashion. I did a styling course as well randomly, and I was thinking about getting into costume design and film. I didn't really know what I wanted to be honest. I was kind of just doing whatever was there, whatever was available. And then I started applying to the BBC for like internships. I started applying to other places for different like videography roles, and nothing came up. It was really discouraging. I was looking for a job for a few months and nothing was working because I ended up quitting the other place I was working because I just wasn't fulfilled at all. And I knew I didn't want to actually do that long term. So I then moved to Alice Springs. Before this, I was in Edinburgh in Scotland, and I moved to Alice Springs, which is, if you don't know, think of the latest Mad Max film, which is literally the middle of the desert. And that was actually filmed not far from Alice Springs. So it's pretty much the desert. It's right in the middle of Australia. There's nothing there. It's a tiny town, and there's literally nothing around for miles and miles. It's just the middle of nowhere. My mum had moved there about a year ago, and she was saying, come to Alice. Like, there's great opportunities for work here. They're always looking for people. There's lots of jobs. So in a kind of desperate move, I ended up moving to Alice, and I did actually find a job quite quickly that paid well. It was nothing to do with film. Again, it was an admin role at a landscaping company, which I actually did end up enjoying, but still wasn't what I wanted to do. At the same time, though, before I came to Alice, I contacted the pastor of one of the churches in Alice that my mum went to, because he'd apparently been saying for about 6 months that they really needed a media director. They really needed someone to do their videos, and they were just desperate basically to find someone because the pastor had actually been doing it up until that point, and it was literally him pointing his camera at himself talking, and apparently it was hilariously terrible. So they really needed someone. So I emailed him and I said, I had no experience, just letting you know, I filmed my parents' weddings, I've filmed some travel vlogs, but pretty much no real professional experience. He was like, I don't care, like, just come and do it. So I ended up pretty much getting stuck straight in. I remember my first kind of job was to do 3 interviews. It was testimony videos for the men's conference coming up, and it was 3 testimony videos. I had never filmed anyone else. I had never done anything like this. So I had to contact them individually, make times for them to come and film. I had to set up all the lights and, everything, which I was kind of familiar with from doing YouTube, but I didn't really have any idea of how to conduct that kind of interview. So basically I just turned the camera on and I just said, I asked a couple of questions, and then I can't believe I did this, but I actually filmed each interview twice, so from different angles, because I just thought like, hey, I've seen people do interviews and they always have different angles, so they must just film it twice, which I now know there's usually multiple cameras. But anyway, I literally had, I think, 2 or 3 days to edit, and it was so stressful because everything went wrong. I didn't know anything about audio at that point because I'd still only been filming with just my camera. I hadn't used a microphone. They ended up coming out okay. I mean, they were better probably than anything they'd had before because it had just been the pastor doing the videos, which again, apparently the quality was terrible. So put next to the other videos that they'd done, apparently it was pretty good. But for me, it was absolutely terrible. And I look back on those videos and they're so bad. But it's quite encouraging because I could see my progression through the years. I ended up staying in Alice for 3 years and I did all kinds of different videos for them. I did, promotional videos, church news every week, which was a huge undertaking. Like took so much of my time, and it was all volunteer. I didn't get paid for any of it, which actually took a lot of the stress out because I knew I wasn't getting paid. So it was kind of, I could make mistakes and it wasn't the end of the world, but it was still, a lot of people were seeing these videos. It was hundreds of people in the church. So it was still a big deal every time putting a video out because all of these people would see it. And it was also representing the church. So it had to be kind of a certain standard. So after about 3 years, I kind of got to the point where I knew I couldn't really grow anymore. I was doing these videos regularly and they were improving. They were, up to a good quality where I was happy with them. But I just knew that like if I kept going, I wouldn't really improve because I had nothing to kind of compare it to. I didn't have any kind of mentor. I didn't have anyone to help me, anyone who knew anything at all about media or video. So it was quite isolating, which was good in a way because it forced me to learn in other ways. So I basically just used YouTube, the internet, Google to tell me everything I needed to know, which was great. But I feel like there's definitely something to be said about having your work looked at by someone who actually knows what they're doing and who actually is in the industry, because there's definitely things that they see that you wouldn't necessarily see or that you've looked past. I just knew that I couldn't keep improving and I couldn't get to where I wanted to go if I stayed there. So even though I had some great friends, I had this wonderful church that was so flexible with whatever I wanted to do. They gave me complete creative control and freedom, and it was amazing, but I just knew I needed to push myself further. So I ended up moving back to Edinburgh, or, back to Scotland to live with my dad. And I had savings at this point, which for me is amazing. I am terrible with money. So the fact that I saved up, it was close to, I think, $18,000. So it was a lot of money, which I'm not going to lie, most of that is gone. But anyway, for me, that was a lot of money to save. And I basically got here, I bought some LED lights, I bought a tripod, a mic stand, I bought a stabilizer, I bought a laptop, I bought a car. I just bought everything I could possibly need to be a videographer and actually do this professionally. So once I got all my gear, I basically started applying to every single production company in Edinburgh and Glasgow. I literally looked up on Google production companies in Scotland and I went through the list and I sent the same email to all of them. I set up my website first and then I just sent the same email. I sent them my show reel. I sent them my website, which by this point I had a lot of videos to go on my show reel and to go on my website. So that was amazing, which is something that I feel like was a huge benefit of working for the church, is that I got this amazing back catalog of stuff and all different kinds of videos as well, like interviews. And, I did a couple of weddings from that, people in the church. I ended up doing my best friend's wedding, which was amazing. So I had a whole bunch of stuff that I'd shot, all different kinds of things. And so I had a really great portfolio to send to all of these places. I kept track of everywhere I applied to, when I applied, the method I applied, and I got a couple of responses. Most people said they weren't hiring. Most people said they only ever hired freelancers. They weren't actually hiring people to be a part of the production company full time, which I found really difficult because I had no idea how to be a freelancer. I had no idea what that meant or how I would kind of, invoice or, all of this stuff was completely foreign to me. So I kind of wanted to stay away from freelancing at that point because I just didn't really understand it. And I had no person to kind of ask advice from, like who knew anything about it. So I just kept looking for an actual position within a production company. And I applied to this production company in Sterling, and they ended up calling me and saying, hey, we actually don't have anything in terms of production, but we do have an admin role, which would be kind of admin/production assistant, which I was so excited about. I was like, oh my gosh, like an actual production company wants to hire me. This is amazing. So I ended up working there for about a week. And then I kind of started to get a lot of red flags from them. My boss, the way he was treating me, the interview was really, really intense. It was 2 hours, and he basically kind of hounded me a lot about my religion, which I kind of felt like wasn't relevant or kind of appropriate for the interview. So I kind of looked past that. I was like, that's fine. Like he's just, seeing, if I'd be able to film the types of things that they film. It's totally fine. It's fine. And I was kind of ignoring, a lot of the red flags of, he wasn't really willing to take any kind of like input from anyone else. He would kind of just, have the thing that he wanted and the exact way he wanted it, and he wouldn't really listen to other people. And I kind of was starting to get the feeling that if I ended up kind of working for them in the production company, I would never be heard and my ideas would never be taken seriously. So there was just like little things, and I just, the other thing was I didn't really like any of their films, which, I was like, does that matter? Everyone has to start somewhere. Like I have to start at the bottom of the ladder in order to move my way up. But is that going to be an issue that I don't like the films they're producing? Because they weren't my style. They were kind of cheesy, over the top, very loud, just not really my kind of thing. So I was kind of having some doubts. Then I got a phone call from a videographer in Edinburgh who I had actually applied to. He put out a job ad and I had applied to it, not really thinking much of it. I did a little video for it and he ended up watching that video, being super excited, super impressed. He called me and he was like, I loved your video. I'm really impressed with your stuff. Like, I'd love to meet with you. So I ended up going to meet with him, and the whole time I was like, no, like I'm not going to take this. But on the drive home, I was thinking about it, I was praying about it, and I talked to my family and they were like, you have to take this. Like, this just looks so much more down your alley. It just seems like he's a much easier person to work with and someone who would actually be interested in listening to your ideas. So basically, long story short, I ended up taking that job, and that is my current job. I've only been working there a couple of weeks. I did give notice to the other place, so I worked there an additional week, and I worked my butt off for that week. I worked really hard doing a whole social media plan. I did all this research for them, and I put a lot into that actually, and I was really proud of the social media plan that I did. Left them on really good terms. They were really nice about it actually. It was a really good way to leave. So yeah, I've only been working for this videographer for a couple of weeks. It is going well so far. I haven't got a lot of projects, but definitely excited for what's coming in the future. And I just feel like at this point, I don't really know what I want to do. I don't really know where I'm going, but I just feel like everything I've done up until this point, admin, sales, styling, social media, everything that I've learned from my different jobs and different career paths, I feel like they've all been bringing me to a particular point, and I feel like God is definitely taking me on a particular journey, and I'm just really excited, and I kind of just wanted to take you along with me on this journey. I don't really know exactly the kind of things I'm going to be talking about, but I would definitely love to do a film aspect of the podcast because I just love film, and I literally would talk about it for hours, but no one will listen to me. So I feel like if you love film as well and you love just hearing other people's points of view and how they saw the film and how it resonated with them, then I feel like you would like this podcast and that aspect of the podcast. So yeah, the plan is to do things I've learnt, personal stuff, so just things about me and things that I am learning on this journey, and the film discussions as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I will definitely keep you updated on my journey and where I'm heading. anything I'm learning along the way. Thank you so much for listening. If this episode inspired you at all, please don't forget to leave me a review. That would be really helpful. I hope you have a great week and tune in next time for more creative insight into my experiences in the world of video and film.